The Board Panda put out an article that was sharing experiences from real life tradwives from the 20th century, and I have been sharing some of them. I've gone through 1 through 10, so I'm going to go through a few more today. Basically, tradwives of yesteryear are completely different from these tradwife influencers that we're seeing proliferate the social media spaces. Number 11, it's terribly risky. You're staking the survival of yourself and your children on a man. So many women have been dumped for a trophy girlfriend after 20 years of loyal service to a husband and left penniless with no job skills. Even if your husband doesn't leave you, he may still become disabled and unable to work, or he may die. If you're going to do this, make sure you have a huge multi-million-dollar life insurance policy on your husband. Make sure you are funding a retirement plan for yourself out of the family income in your name only, not your husband's name. Make sure you keep up some sort of resume with a part-time job. Don't let your husband take the attitude that he controls the money because he's the one who earns the paycheck. Remember that the services you provide for free will cost him a lot of money if he has to pay fair market wages for the work you do. Going back to this part, this is the reason why I have been calling women wife appliances, because they literally can and do trade in their wife appliance for a newer version once they get tired of it, or once that appliance has lost its vigor or lost its shine or whatever. They do trade them in. So women having the wherewithal to have a backup plan is only the smart thing to do. It's for survival's sake. Number 12, my mother was one. Watching her life is why, at the age of 8, I swore to never have kids. And now, safely postmenopausal, I can confirm I never did. You will lose yourself completely. Everything you think of as you will be consumed by the lifestyle. Your bodily autonomy is taken not only by your husband in pregnancy, but taken by your children. Your privacy, your time, your thoughts, and your ability to make a decision for yourself. Every decision you make will have to put someone else first because hubby isn't picking up the slack. That may or may not be true. Sometimes, sometimes people are actively participating where they should, like it's a team thing. But in many of these trad wife setups in times of yore, it just wasn't the case. The woman was the literal servant of the household. General Anastasia says there is no slack for a husband to pick up if you're a trad wife. He man, you trad, you property. Number 13 says, you are more than your uterus. And B. Hookage says, my uterus and I hate each other. Number 14, being a trad wife is an idealized version of what the reality was, and they were playing house. My mother couldn't open a bank account or have a credit card or get a prescription for birth control without his permission. For many, many years, she signed her name, Mrs. His name. Her identity was his identity. Being a feminist, this all angered her. Yes, you can be a feminist and still love men and participate in traditional activities. She enjoyed cooking and baking, took great care of the house, was the president of the women's club, etc. But as soon as she could legally, she made sure she had what she needed to take care of herself if she ever needed to, including birth control, signing her name, getting her own bank account with money she made and buying with her own credit card. The women of today that actually want to go back to a time where we didn't have rights are wild, considering there's a reason why so many women fought for these rights. Number 15, my mom was born in the 20s. She had more kids, 6, than planned, and had a lot of housewife pressures. The hard part for her was that her narcissistic husband, my dad, whom I adored, cut her out of all major decisions. He was successful, Ivy League professor, but very self absorbed, beyond the social norms of the day, and more due to his narcissism. She would purposely set up boundaries to avoid full martyrdom, which I always thought was healthy. She would sleep in until we left the house to go to school. She'd give herself a nap after every afternoon after lunch. Safe to say, she felt very constrained by this role and would have had an interesting career had she been born much later. She was widowed at age 68 and lived another 29 years. In her old age, she was very socially involved and loved, making her own decisions, sharp to the end. As she outlived her friends, she immersed herself in progressive politics, college and NBA basketball, and comedy shows like The Office and 30 Rock. She was lonely as her friends passed, but also loved her solitude. And we see this, and this is one of the main reasons why women a lot of the times do not remarry. They don't remarry after these long marriages, and why men tend to marry quickly because they need to replace that wife appliance. But sometimes women are you know shocked or traumatized by being considered or treated like a wife appliance. Okay, this was some of the post on the Board Panda article, and I will be doing some of the commentary that I got from the women on the post that I actually posted. So that's going to be in the next part. Now for some of the commentary on this Trad Wife to Poverty Pipeline video that I put out a couple of days ago. Misa says, I once went to an event where older women shared their life stories. They told us how they got married to men double their ages, how they were married at 11 or 12 years old when they didn't yet have their first period, to men older than 25, how they'd rush to do house chores to have time to play with their dolls, how they'd have to fake their period to not lay with their husbands. How they ended up having more than 10 children despite wanting none. We are so fortunate to be living in an age far away from those times where women were basically furniture, and we should forever be thankful to those rebellious women that helped us achieve freedom. Going back to these old women I met, they look so happy with their current lives, either divorced or widowed, without the responsibility to raise more children now. They're glowing and living for themselves. Now, this is a wild comment. Ceiling Cat Watches Us says, yep, my ex's female friend was a housewife whose husband worked in tech like myself. We didn't work together, just in the same field. He had a side piece, dumped the wife with 2 children, and she had no skills that would be transferred in the real world. She got paid pennies to the dollar while caring for 2 children. She started to look at my ex, and I told him bye, basically. I had no time. Now they were both dating until my ex started to treat her minor son like crap. And now she's back in with her parents. And my ex is living back home with his brother and his wife. The trad life isn't guaranteed. So this woman never got any survival skills. She couldn't adult without a man. And she took this man from this woman or whatever. This man left to be with her, and then they both ended up broken up and in another broken home. So that's kind of a wild. Stupid Took My Nick says, imagine the shock on the trad men's faces when they pull the mask off the feminist boogie woman and find our collective grandmas underneath it. And that is true. Grandmas, aunties, mamas, they're the ones telling us to make sure that we can stand on our own. And all of the shaming, the hate against the women that are getting their education and getting careers and accomplishments is not going to make any of us go backwards. Like, what are we going to go do? Give our education back or something? Okay, so this is a long comment. Amber in the Mist says, I am always on here talking about being raised Mormon, but here we go. When I was in, they said insisting you be on bank accounts and deeds was testing God because you weren't trusting your husband enough. They insisted you have as many children as possible, but you were supposed to look like a teen virgin your whole life. Every Mormon woman I knew had an eating disorder of some kind. There were Mormon doctors handing out diet pills like candy. All of this was because Mormon men could only relieve themselves with their wives, and they had to have perfect wives because it was promised in the Book of Mormon. And as a holdover from polygamy, men couldn't be loose or not pure. They could sleep with 100 women all on rotation and still be viewed as being spiritually pure as long as they see God blessing the union. Legal marriage isn't so important as their own rituals. So Mormon men cheat with abandon is viewed as a lesser sin for a man than to jack off. Seriously. But a woman has to be 100% loyal, even through cheating. The only thing Mormon men and boys are barred from is trying to sleep with unmarried Mormon women because it steals a potential wife from another Mormon. Because a non virgin Mormon woman is seen as a pitiful discard. So they just focus all their cheating on non Mormons. It's an absolutely terrible existence for the wives. Men are also told they are promised specific souls as children by God, so women are not allowed to have any say in when or how many. Women who don't want to have more kids will get publicly shamed. Treatment for postpartum depression is discouraged, except for in house therapists who will never say limit family size to help the women. Child abuse by women is rampant as a result. This is also why you'll often see more Mormons reverting to the true church when the wife is discovered to be infertile or low fertility, so they can just add more wives in order to get the kids that God promised them. PS, PSA, never let any Mormon boy around your non Mormon daughter, no matter what he says. He's there to use her, and the religion says it's okay to lie to non Mormons. I had no idea. And that's the reason why I needed to read this comment, because all of us are not on the inside and have no idea what's going on with some of these people. And that is the end of the comments for now. There were tons, but I was just picking and choosing some. And so I do want you guys to go ahead and weigh in. What are some of your experiences, some of the things that you've seen within your family structure, your community, or whatever? Join the conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.